The twin suns of Virelia were dying, and the planet trembled under the heat of their final breaths. Great rivers of molten fire ran through the continents. Cities crumbled, and the once blue oceans were boiling under the relentless sun. Virelia's people, small and delicate with translucent skin and glowing eyes, watched their world collapse. Fear and sorrow filled every corner of their planet. Families huddled together, praying for a miracle, while children clutched their parents' hands, not understanding why the sky itself seemed to betray them. High Chancellor Eulora stood atop the central tower of the capital city, her long robes fluttering in the hot winds. She stared at the sky, where countless messages of distress floated through space, each one a desperate plea for aid. She had sent these messages herself, hoping for a savior, hoping that someone, anyone, would hear the cries of her people before it was too late. "They must hear us," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the dying planet. They have to. But the galaxy was indifferent. Great empires, powerful fleets, and wealthy worlds had received Virelia's pleas, but none responded. Some said the planet was too small, too insignificant. Others argued it was too dangerous, too unstable to waste resources. Even allies from neighboring systems ignored the calls, leaving Virelia isolated. The Virelians began to lose hope. Entire cities were abandoned as the heat waves and storms destroyed homes and markets. The sky above burned red and orange, and every night brought new tremors that shook the foundations of their civilization. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to stabilize their technology, but it was useless against the planet's dying suns. Eulora walked through the streets, past families carrying what little belongings they could save. She tried to smile, tried to comfort them, but inside her heart ached. She had never felt so powerless. Every face she saw was a reminder of the fragile lives depending on her decisions, and every flicker in the sky was a countdown to the end. "We cannot survive this alone," she said aloud. Though no one could answer, someone must help us. She returned to the communication tower, where massive screens displayed her pleas sent to every corner of the galaxy. Ships had passed through the system, glimpsed the chaos, and moved on. Traders, explorers, and even diplomats had seen the dying world and chosen profit or safety over compassion. Eulora's assistant, a young Virelian named Tyron, approached her, eyes wide and trembling. "Chancellor, the latest messages." No replies. Not even a signal. "The galaxy has forgotten us." Eulora turned to him, her glowing eyes filled with sadness and determination. "No, Tyron. We cannot let ourselves believe that. Somewhere out there someone will answer. Someone will not abandon us." In the distance, a small shuttle approached the planet, leaving a trail of light across the scorched sky. Eulora's heart leapt with hope, but she quickly realized it was just another scout from a distant empire, ignoring their pleas and flying past without even slowing down. The disappointment was crushing. At night, when the fires of the cities reflected in the sky like 1,000 molten stars, Eulora would stand on the highest tower, looking at the darkness beyond Virelia. She imagined worlds filled with beings who could help, who had the power to save lives yet chose not to. It was a galaxy of great beauty and terrible indifference, but even in despair she refused to give in. The Virelians had survived harsh storms, diseases, and wars in their long history. They were fragile, yes, but clever and resourceful. Eulora knew that survival required more than technology or strategy. It required hope. And hope, she believed, was the last thing the galaxy could not take from them. The night before the final storm, Eulora gathered her council. The room was filled with tension and fear. "We cannot wait any longer," she said, her voice steady despite the quiver in her heart. "If the galaxy will not answer, we must prepare for the worst. We must save as many as we can ourselves, even if it is only a fraction of our people." Her words hung in the air like fire. Every Virelian knew the truth. Without outside help, the planet would not survive another week. Yet Eulora's determination sparked a glimmer of courage in them. They began preparing evacuation pods, fortifying shelters, and sending small groups to the less affected areas. And in the vast emptiness of space, as Virelia's cries echoed through countless star systems, one planet noticed. One planet that had earned the fearsome reputation of Deathworlders, the humans, saw the messages, saw the desperation, and decided, somewhere across the stars, a human captain looked at the plea and said simply, "We're going." It was a small sentence, but it carried the weight of hope. The galaxy might have turned away, but the first spark of salvation had finally appeared. And so, As Virelia trembled on the edge of annihilation, its people clung to a fragile hope, a hope that would soon take shape in a form they never expected. Across the galaxy, far from the dying twin suns of Virelia, Earth received the desperate signals. Humans had long studied distant worlds, but Virelia's cries were different. They were raw, urgent, and filled with fear that no human had ever heard before. Millions of messages, each a digital scream, scrolled across the monitors in the Earth Space Command. Captain Elena Marlowe, one of Earth's most experienced commanders, stood in the center of the command room, her uniform dark against the pale glow of the screens. Her crew waited silently, knowing the weight of the moment. Many worlds in the galaxy had ignored the Virelians, dismissing them as insignificant, too weak or too far away. But humans were different. Elena's eyes narrowed as she studied the signals. "We have the power to help," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "And if we do nothing, they will die." Her officers exchanged nervous glances. The mission would be dangerous. Unknown hazards, deadly environments, and perhaps even hostile aliens. The Virelians themselves were fragile. Their planet was a furnace, and no human technology had ever survived such extreme conditions without risk. Lieutenant Chen, a young officer with a quick mind and fearless spirit, spoke first. "Captain, the fleet is ready, but this isn't just a rescue mission. It could be a fight for survival. The galaxy doesn't care about them, and who knows what else is out there." Elena looked at him and nodded. "That's why we go. Because someone has to care. Someone has to fight." Earth's leaders had debated the mission. Some argued it was too dangerous, that resources should be spent protecting humanity first. But Elena and her team insisted. They reminded the Council of Humanity's history. Harsh worlds, deadly environments, and countless wars had shaped them into survivors. Humanity was forged in struggle, and they did not shy away from risk. The decision was made. Earth's fleet, a collection of seasoned ships and battle-hardened crews, would respond to Virelia's call. Every human on the mission knew the stakes. It was not a training exercise. Lives depended on them, and failure was unthinkable. The Resolute, Earth's flagship, led the fleet. Its hull was scarred from countless battles, a testament to human resilience. Crew members checked weapons, reinforced shields, and calibrated engines for the journey. Everyone was tense, but there was no fear. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they would do it again. In the quiet moments before launch, Elena walked through the ship. She saw young pilots adjusting their flight suits, engineers running final diagnostics, and medics preparing emergency supplies. Each one carried a silent promise they would not fail. They were Deathworlders, humans who thrived where others would die, and they would bring hope to a world abandoned by the galaxy. Aboard the command deck, Elena addressed her crew. "We are going to a world no one else dared to save. Their sons are dying, their cities are burning, and we are their only chance. Remember this, our strength is not in our weapons alone. It is in our courage, our determination, and our refusal to turn away when others have. Today we become the answer to a prayer the galaxy ignored." The fleet launched. As Earth's ships pierced the atmosphere, the planet seemed to watch silently. Humans were leaving behind everything familiar, friends, homes, and safety, to face the unknown. Yet there was no hesitation. In every cabin, in every bridge, the same thought echoed. Someone must do what no one else will. During the journey, the crew studied Virelia's signals, analyzing heat patterns, storm formations, and collapsing structures. The closer they approached, the more evident the planet's danger became. Lava flows had carved new paths through cities. Atmospheric storms twisted violently, scattering debris and fire across the land. The Virelians the air on the brink of extinction, and time was slipping through their fingers like sand. Lieutenant Chen approached Elena on the deck. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this." "If we hadn't come?" His voice faltered, but his meaning was clear. Had humanity ignored Virelia, it would be gone in hours. Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we didn't ignore them. That's what matters. We're going to save them, no matter the cost." As the fleet crossed the last light years, every crew member prepared for the unknown. Some felt fear, a natural human emotion, but it was tempered by resolve. They were trained for harsh worlds, for battle, and for sacrifice. They were Deathworlders, and this was what they were born to do. And far away on the dying planet, the Virelians still prayed to empty skies. They did not know it yet, but hope had arrived. Humanity, the feared and battle-hardened species of Earth, had seen their cries, and unlike the rest of the galaxy, humans would not turn away. Captain Elena Marlowe stared at the approaching planet on the view screen. "Prepare for entry," she said quietly. "Let's show them what humanity is capable of." And for the first time in months, the people of Virelia had a reason to hope. The Resolute and its fleet emerged from hyperspace, breaking through the thick veil of Virelia's storm-racked atmosphere. Below, cities burned and rivers of molten rock flowed like rivers of fire, sending plumes of smoke twisting into the sky. The humans had trained for harsh worlds, but the sight still drew gasps from some crew members. This was more extreme than any simulation, more dangerous than any previous mission. Yet there was no hesitation. Captain Elena Marlowe gripped the console, her eyes scanning the chaos below. "Deploy reconnaissance drones. Map safe zones. We go in fast and precise. Lives are counting on us." The first human ships descended through the choking smoke. The air burned, winds howled, and debris flew like deadly shrapnel. Virelians looked up in terror and awe. They had sent pleas to the galaxy for help, and for months the silence had been absolute. And now, suddenly, impossibly, massive ships, scarred from battles and bristling with strange technology, appeared above them. They came," whispered High Chancellor Yalora, her voice trembling as she watched the humans descend. Her eyes, wide with hope and disbelief, followed the massive ships. They actually came. The humans did not waste time. Dropships and shuttles descended into the heart of the burning cities, shielding evacuation pods with energy barriers. Crews ran through streets filled with fire and collapsing structures, lifting debris and guiding frightened Virelians to safety. Every movement was careful yet strong. Humans moved as if they were born to survive in danger, bending destruction to their will, protecting life at every turn. Lieutenant Chen jumped from a dropship, landing on a crumbling bridge. With precision, he helped a group of children cross the molten chasm below. "Follow me," he called, voice steady against the roar of the storm. The Virelians hesitated at first, but instinctively trusted these beings who moved with both strength and purpose. Yalora watched, tears streaming down her face. Never had her people seen such courage. The humans were terrifyingly strong, yet their hands were gentle. They risked their lives for strangers, moving through flames and collapsing buildings. And the Virelians had no words for it, only awe and gratitude. Captain Marlowe herself led a team into the heart of the capital city, where entire districts had been swallowed by molten rivers. She coordinated rescues, directed energy shields to protect families, and even carried supplies herself when drones could not reach certain areas. Her crew followed without question, inspired by her calm determination and refusal to yield to danger. As the humans worked, a massive firestorm approached. Virelians screamed, running for safety. But the humans formed a barrier, holding off the deadly winds with shields powered by energy cores. Sparks flew and the air burned their skin, but the humans stood firm. One by one, they led terrified civilians to evacuation pods that floated safely above the chaos. Yalora could barely comprehend what she was seeing. How can they be so strong, and yet so gentle?" she asked, voice choked with emotion. A young human engineer wiping soot from his face responded without looking up. "We fight for life, all life. That's what we do." The Virelians had never known such determination. Their own technology, delicate and precise, could barely withstand the heat. But humans, hardened by harsh worlds and uncountable battles, adapted quickly. They built makeshift bridges, used energy barriers to redirect molten flows, and even improvised hoverlifts to carry families out of danger. It was a display of raw skill, courage, and compassion that the Virelians could not have imagined. Meanwhile, the sound of alarms echoed across the planet. Deep cracks opened in the ground, sending geysers of molten rock skyward. Humans leaped across the fissures, their reflexes almost superhuman. Each rescue brought a cheer or tear from the Virelians, who had long thought themselves abandoned. For the first time in months, hope filled the air. High Chancellor Yalora gathered the remaining council members. They are not like anyone else," she said, voice trembling. "They risk everything for us, for our lives. We have never seen courage like this." From the sky, Captain Marlowe directed the final wave of evacuations. "Keep moving. We're not done yet." Her voice carried authority and calm. Even as storms threatened to tear apart the city, every human crew member understood their mission, and every Varelian watching felt a strange, overwhelming gratitude. By nightfall, hundreds of thousands of Varelians had been saved. Cities were still burning, but the worst was over. People were gathered in temporary shelters and pods above the molten rivers, alive because of humans who had no reason to risk themselves, except for the simple truth that life was worth saving. Yolora finally approached Captain Marlowe, bowing deeply. I do not know how to thank you. You came when the galaxy turned away. You risked everything for strangers. How can we ever repay you? Elena placed a hand gently on Yolora's shoulder. You don't need to repay us. We are here because it is the right thing to do. Your lives, your hope, that is enough. The Varelians stared at the humans in awe. For centuries they had begged the galaxy for aid. And now, in the ashes of their world, a new hope had arrived. Strong, fearless, and unyielding. Somewhere in the sky, above the dying cities, the humans prepared for what was next. They knew the danger was far from over, but for the first time Varelia had a chance, and it was all because Earth's Deathworlders had come. For days humans had rescued the Varelians, bringing hope to a world that had almost given up. But peace was fragile. Far beyond the burning skies of Varelia, a dark fleet moved silently through space. The Kravix, a merciless alien species, had detected the planet's rare energy resources. They did not care about lives or despair. To them, Varelia was nothing more than a prize. High above the planet, the humans detected the incoming ships. Lieutenant Chen's console beeped urgently. Captain! Unidentified fleet approaching. They are armed! Heavily. Captain Elena Marlowe's jaw tightened. Kravix, they came for the planet, not for help. Prepare for battle. The humans quickly organized a defensive perimeter around Varelia. Ships positioned themselves between the burning cities and the approaching fleet. Human fighters streaked through the sky, dodging incoming missiles with breathtaking precision. Every crew member knew the stakes. If they failed, the planet and its people would be destroyed, and all their efforts would be in vain. Below, Varelians watched the sky with fear and wonder. They had seen humans work miracles in rescue, but now they were about to witness their power in battle. Cities still burned, but hope surged as humans intercepted the enemy. The Kravix attacked without mercy. Their jagged black warships opened fire, striking near evacuation zones. Explosions rocked the ground, sending debris into the sky. The humans responded instantly, firing energy shields to protect Varelian civilians while launching counterattacks. Lieutenant Chen piloted his fighter with skill born from years of surviving harsh conditions on Earth. We have to keep them away from the pods, he shouted over the comms. Rockets fired, energy beams collided, and the battle became a violent dance of light and destruction. Captain Marlowe took the bridge of the Resolute, commanding with calm authority. Deploy boarding teams, she ordered. If they think they can take the planet, we'll show them the cost of underestimating humans. Human boarding teams launched toward the Kravix vessels. They moved with incredible speed, scaling the enemy ships with magnetic boots. Inside, chaos erupted. The Kravix were strong, but humans were relentless. Every strike was calculated, every move precise, and every life saved was proof of their commitment. High Chancellor Yolora observed from a safe pod, tears in her eyes. They fight as if every life matters, as if the universe itself depends on them, she whispered. The Varelians had never seen such courage, such single-minded determination. These humans were warriors, yes, but their fight was for life, not conquest. The battle raged through the skies. Energy beams cut through the clouds, ships twisted in main. Maneuvers that defied physics and explosions lit the darkening horizon. Humans fought in synchronized waves, never yielding, adapting to every attack the Kravix launched. On the ground, evacuation pods floated safely above the chaos, protected by human shields. Families huddled inside, unable to comprehend the ferocity of the battle but feeling a strange sense of safety. Every time a Kravix missile was destroyed, every time a human fighter intercepted an enemy ship, hope grew stronger. Lieutenant Chen shouted into the comms as his fighter dove toward a collapsing bridge of a Kravix ship. Captain, I've got a group trapped inside. Need support. Captain Marlowe responded immediately. We're with you. Hold your position, we're cutting a path for you. In a brilliant display of coordination, Humans destroyed the Kravik ship's weapons while Chen rescued the trapped enemy soldiers, turning a moment of danger into a testament of human courage and precision. By the time night fell over the burning cities, the first wave of the Kraviks had been repelled. Human ships floated battered but standing, shields flickering, engines smoking. Many humans had been injured and some of their ships were destroyed, but they had achieved the impossible. They had protected Virelia and its people from annihilation. The Virelians cheered, tears streaming down their faces. They had begged the galaxy for help, and for the first time, someone had answered with courage, skill, and a willingness to risk everything for strangers. High Chancellor Yalora approached Captain Marlowe as the human ship stabilized. "You saved us, and yet you are not done. You fight without hatred, without greed. Why?" Elena's face was tired but calm. "We fight because life is worth fighting for. Because when no one else comes, someone must. Today we defended your world. Tomorrow we will continue if needed." The Virelians looked at the humans with a mixture of awe and gratitude. They had witnessed not only strength but the heart behind it, the unbreakable spirit that defined Earth's Deathworlders. Even as the Kraviks retreated to regroup, the humans prepared for the next wave. They would not abandon Virelia. The planet might still burn, storms might rage, but humanity had made a promise that would not be broken. And somewhere above the smoldering cities, amidst the smoke and fire, a single truth became clear to all watching. Humans fight not because they must, but because they choose to stand for what is right. The galaxy may have ignored Virelia, but humanity would not. The battle had ended for now, but Virelia was far from safe. Fires still burned across the cities, molten rivers split the land, and the twin suns continued their deadly collapse. Human ships hovered above, shields humming, engines ready, while evacuation pods floated steadily, carrying frightened Virelians to safety. Captain Elena Marlowe stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring down at the burning planet. Her crew was exhausted, but no one allowed themselves to rest completely. Every second counted. If they let the planet deteriorate further, the lives they had saved could still be lost. Lieutenant Chen approached, his face streaked with soot and sweat. "Captain, the energy readings are worsening. The atmosphere is unstable. We can't hold it much longer without intervention." Elena nodded grimly. "Then we adapt. That's what we do." Humans were masters of improvisation. While Virelians had advanced technology, it could not withstand the extreme heat and collapsing infrastructure. The humans, hardened by harsh worlds and countless battles, began to stabilize the planet in their own way. Massive energy shields were deployed in orbit to reduce the heat reaching the surface. Emergency bridges of energy were created over molten rivers to allow rescue teams to move faster. Even the evacuation pods were retrofitted with temporary atmospheric shields, so Virelians could safely breathe and move across dangerous zones. Down on the ground, humans worked tirelessly, guiding civilians through collapsing streets. Captain Marlowe herself led a team into a ruined district, lifting debris, carrying children, and ensuring every evacuation pod reached safety. Every move was precise and careful, yet strong enough to survive the chaotic environment. The Virelians watched in amazement. They had never seen beings so fearless, yet so thoughtful in protecting life. High Chancellor Yalora approached Elena amidst the chaos. "You are extraordinary," she said, tears streaking her face. "Your people risk everything, and yet you save us without question. Why?" Elena crouched beside her, hands resting lightly on Yalora's shoulders. "Because life is worth saving. Because when no one else answers a call for help, someone has to. That someone is us." Yalora could only bow, overwhelmed. She had begged the galaxy for aid, sent messages across countless star systems, and yet only humans had come. They were not just rescuers, they were warriors, saviors, and symbols of hope all in one. But the dangers were far from over. The planet's core trembled violently, sending massive shock waves across cities. Lava spouts erupted, and the atmosphere became increasingly unstable. Humans adapted quickly. Drones monitored the most dangerous zones, while portable energy fields protected clusters of Virelians. Engineers like Lieutenant Chen devised new methods to divert molten flows and stabilize structures, turning catastrophe into manageable chaos. During one particularly dangerous moment, a bridge of molten rock split in two, sending Virelians screaming. Without hesitation, Elena and her team activated a temporary energy bridge, rushing across to carry civilians to safety. Every human action was a statement. No one would be left behind. Night fell over Varelia, but the fires made it glow like a fiery jewel. From orbit, human ships glimmered like stars, tirelessly working to maintain shields and guide evacuation pods. The Varelians, who had spent months in fear and despair, began to see a new reality. Survival was possible. Elora gathered her council in a temporary shelter, looking at the humans working tirelessly outside. They are not just strong, she said softly. They have hearts, courage, determination. I have never seen such bravery. They are different from anyone else in the galaxy. One of the younger Varelians asked her, Chancellor, why did they come? No one else did. Elora paused, tears in her eyes. Because they are human. Because they are forged to survive, and yet they fight not for conquest but for life. They came because they believed our lives mattered. That is why. Meanwhile, Captain Marlowe coordinated a daring plan. Human ships would create a massive orbital shield network, while drones and engineers stabilized the most dangerous areas below. It was a gamble, but humans thrived on impossible odds. Every crew member understood the risks. They were trained for worlds that would kill weaker species, but they did not hesitate. Virelia's survival depended on their skill, courage, and heart. Hours passed. Lava flows were diverted, storms weakened, and evacuation pods continued to rise safely into orbit. The humans had turned the tide. Where Virelia's people had faced certain doom, there was now a chance. A fragile, precious chance to live. Elora watched from a safe observation deck as Captain Marlowe stood at the forefront of a rescue operation, moving among her crew like a general and a guardian at the same time. They are humanity, Elora whispered, and they are everything we prayed for. For the first time in weeks, hope surged across the planet. The Varelians realized that while the galaxy had ignored their cries, humans had come, not out of duty or gain, but because it was the right thing to do. Strength, courage, and compassion, these humans carried it all, and it was enough to change the fate of an entire world. As the humans continued their work, stabilizing cities and saving lives, it became clear Virelia would survive, not because its sons were strong or its technology advanced, but because humanity had arrived. And humanity would not leave until every life was safe. Above the chaos, Captain Marlowe looked at the burning horizon. Her voice was calm but filled with resolve. We've turned the tide for now, but this planet is not safe yet. We keep fighting. We keep saving. Because when no one else comes, we do. And for the first time in months, the Varelians believed in survival again. The calm of the night on Varelia was deceptive. High above the planet, sensors picked up movement, an enormous fleet of Kravix warships emerging from the shadows of space. But this time they carried something new. A planet-killer weapon designed to obliterate Varelia in minutes. Panic rippled through the remaining Varelians who had begun to hope that survival was finally within reach. Lieutenant Chen rushed to Captain Marlowe on the bridge of the Resolute. Captain, they've brought the ultimate weapon. If it fires, it'll wipe out the planet, and everyone on it. Captain Marlowe's jaw tightened. She looked down at Varelia's glowing cities, evacuation pods rising safely, and the thousands of Varelians who had already been saved. Then we stop it, she said quietly but with unshakable resolve. No one dies today. The humans prepared for a fight unlike any before. Ships bristled with weapons, shields charged to maximum, and boarding teams readied themselves for a desperate strike. Every crew member understood the stakes. The lives of an entire species rested on their shoulders, and failure was unacceptable. The first salvo of Kravix fire struck, shaking the orbital shield network the humans had painstakingly built. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the Resolute rocked violently. Human fighters darted into action, weaving through incoming beams, intercepting missiles, and drawing the Kravix away from vulnerable Varelian zones. Keep them away from the pods, shouted Lieutenant Chen as he led a squadron through the chaos. We cannot let a single Varelian die today. The battle in orbit became a violent dance of light, fire, and steel. Humans moved with precision born of countless Deathworld missions, using every advantage, every tactic, and every ounce of courage to protect the planet below. Ships twisted, fired, dodged, and countered with an elegance that seemed almost impossible. But the real danger was aboard the Kravix flagship. Captain Marlowe led a boarding team toward the weapon itself, a massive device glowing with deadly energy. Magnetic boots clanged against the hull as they entered the heart of enemy territory. Inside, Kravik soldiers attacked with brutal strength, but humans moved faster, striking with precision, using strategy and instinct honed on the harshest worlds Earth had to offer. "Move!" Elena shouted as she deflected energy blasts and led her team down the corridors toward the weapon. They planted charges, cut wires, and disabled power cores, all while fighting through relentless enemy attacks. The tension was unbearable. One mistake could mean the end of Virelia. Meanwhile, orbital squads drew the Kravik's fleet into traps, taking down enemy ships to buy time for the boarding team. Humans sacrificed some of their own vessels to shield evacuation pods, their courage shining in the night sky. Every human action carried a clear message. Life mattered more than fear, more than safety, more than themselves. Deep inside the enemy flagship, Elena and her team reached the weapon's core. With seconds to spare, they triggered the charges. Energy cascades erupted, alarms blaring, and the massive weapon began to collapse under its own unstable power. Humans sprinted back through crumbling corridors, explosions chasing them until they finally reached their extraction point. Above, the orbital battle reached a climax. The Kraviks, enraged and desperate, unleashed volleys of fire, but human coordination, skill, and sheer willpower held them off. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled, forced into retreat, or captured. By the time the last Kravik ship fled the system, Virelia had survived the ultimate attack. On the planet below, Virelians looked up at the sky, watching the humans soar in victory. They had seen fear, strength, and sacrifice in a display that no words could capture. Thousands of lives had been saved, and the dying planet still burned, but hope had been preserved. High Chancellor Yelora approached Captain Marlowe, trembling and exhausted. I cannot thank you enough. You saved our people, and yet you risked everything. Why?" Elena crouched beside her, her eyes steady. "Because life is worth fighting for. Because when no one else comes, someone has to. We are humanity. We survive harsh worlds, we fight impossible odds, and we protect life, especially when others refuse. That's who we are." The Virelians gazed at the humans, awe and gratitude mixing with disbelief. They had begged the galaxy for aid, sent messages across star systems, and waited in despair. Only Earth's Deathworlders had answered. Only humans had risked everything to save them. As the fires of the cities flickered and molten rivers glimmered in the night, Yelora understood something profound. Strength without compassion was meaningless, and courage without heart was empty. Humanity had both, and it had saved them. Captain Marlowe and her crew regrouped, tired but unbroken. Ships floated in orbit, shields glimmering, engines ready, and humans prepared to continue protecting the planet until the Virelians were safe. They had won the battle, but their vigilance would not end until every life was secure. Above Virelia, the twin suns continued to waver, but below, hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had fought, and humanity had proven in the harshest possible way that when life calls for aid, Earth's Deathworlders answer without hesitation, without question, and without fear. The galaxy had turned away, indifferent to Virelia's cries. But humans had come, and that was enough to change everything. The battle was over. The Kravik's fleet had retreated, their planet killer destroyed, and the skies above Virelia were still streaked with smoke and ash. Fires continued to burn across ruined cities, but the evacuation pods, guided by human ships, floated safely into orbit. Virelia had survived. High Chancellor Yelora walked among her people, tears in her eyes. Survivors embraced one another. Children clutched parents, and families who had feared the end now stared at the horizon with hope. For months, Virelians had begged the galaxy for aid. Countless worlds had ignored them. And now, standing before them were the humans, the Deathworlders from Earth, who had risked everything to save lives they had never known. Yelora approached Captain Elena Marlowe. I do not know how to repay you. You came when everyone else turned away. You fought, you sacrificed. Why?" Elena's eyes softened. "Because life matters. Because when no one else comes, someone has to. We do not fight for power, for reward, or for glory. We fight because it is the right thing to do. And today, your people's lives were worth every risk." The Virelians were silent for a moment, absorbing her words. They had seen humans carry families across molten rivers, leap into burning buildings, and face an enemy whose weapon could destroy the entire planet. Humans had endured fire, chaos, and danger without hesitation. Strength and courage had been obvious, but the heart behind it stunned the Virelians most of all. Families began returning to safer areas as human crews continued stabilizing zones. Energy shields covered entire neighborhoods while repair teams patched broken infrastructure as best they could. Every action spoke louder than words. Humanity would not leave until Virelia could survive. Young Virelians gathered near Elena, wide-eyed. "Captain, why did you come?" "No one else did," one whispered. Elena knelt to meet their gaze. "Because you asked for help and we could hear you. The galaxy ignored your cries, but humans answer when life is in danger. Remember that. Courage and hope are never wasted." Yelora, standing beside her, realized the truth. Humanity had rewritten the destiny of Virelia. The planet might still face challenges. Its twin suns might dim further, but the people had survived. They had learned that courage, unity, and heart could triumph where technology and politics had failed. In orbit, Captain Marlowe surveyed the fleet. Many ships were damaged and crews were weary, but every human still stood ready. They had given everything to save strangers, and even now their resolve was unbroken. She gave orders to begin a gradual withdrawal. "We cannot stay forever, but we will remain nearby until every Virelian is safe." The Virelians cheered and wept as human ships rose into space, carrying the promise that help would always be there. And as the fleet ascended, Yelora addressed her people. "Remember this day. Remember the humans who came when no one else would. They are proof that hope exists even in the darkest hour. And one day, we must honor their courage by standing as they do, strong, fearless, and with hearts that care for others." In the following weeks, the humans helped establish emergency shelters and trained Virelians to maintain the orbital shields. Together, they rebuilt what could be saved, planting the seeds for a new future. The planet's skies, once a symbol of despair, now carried light, energy, and the promise of life. As Captain Marlowe prepared to return to Earth, she took one last look at Virelia. "We came because no one else would," she whispered to herself. "And now they have a chance." "That's enough." High Chancellor Yelora stood nearby looking up at the departing fleet. They begged the galaxy, but only humanity answered. Only Earth's Deathworlders risked everything. "Never forget this day," she said, voice trembling. "Never forget who saved us." The surviving Virelians began rebuilding with renewed determination. The story of the humans spread across the planet. Children learned of their bravery, families honored their sacrifices, and the legend of the Deathworlders became a part of Virelia's culture. Humanity had not just saved lives. They had inspired a species to hope, to fight, and to survive. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The worlds that had ignored Virelia's pleas now heard of Earth's courage. Humans were no longer just survivors of harsh worlds. They were protectors, warriors, and symbols of hope. Where life cried out, humanity would answer. And somewhere far away from the dying twin suns, Captain Marlowe and her crew set a course back to Earth, tired, battered, but proud. They had crossed the stars to face impossible danger, and they had succeeded. They had proven what it meant to be human, to fight for life, to stand against despair, and to be the guardians that the galaxy had so desperately needed. On Virelia, as the fires slowly dimmed and families began to rebuild, one thing was certain. The legacy of humanity would live forever in their hearts. They had begged the galaxy for aid, and when all hope seemed lost, only Earth's Deathworlders answered. The galaxy had turned away, but humanity had not, and that would be remembered for generations.